friends, it's Kathy here again, and today I am so pleased to have a really cool dude with us. This is Harold, the founder and director of DiverseArts Culture Works, and we're going to talk about Kenny Dorham's backyard today, which is a project of his. So, hey, Harold.
Good afternoon.
So, tell me a little bit about your history in Austin.
Wow, that's a long story.
Start from the beginning.
No, I'll summarize.
Okay.
I've been here over 30 years now. I don't even want to check the calendar to see exactly. I came here for graduate school, got involved in community art and culture work, and decided that I was going to live here. I founded the first iteration of DiverseArts way back, like in 1994.
Cool.
But prior to that, I was doing nonprofit art and culture work I founded and produced Austin's annual jazz festival for almost 20 years. Had a documentary project on Black music in Austin that we ran and produced concerts so that we can document those performances, did oral history interviews, set up websites, blah, 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 did a bunch of stuff like that. Ran an art gallery under the name of DiverseArts at 3 different locations, published an art and culture magazine, a lot of blah, 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 but all connected to the notion tied to the mission of DiverseArts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and founded and run a live music venue, outdoor mural gallery, organic gardens, and food court.
Yes, there's a lot going on there. We're going to circle back to some of that other stuff, but tell me about Kenny Dorham's backyard.
Kenny Dorham's backyard is an outdoor venue on East 11th Street, right next door to the Victory Grill, the historic Victory Grill.
Right.
And the significance of the venue and the proximity to the Victory Grill and the whole thing is that this strip of commercial real estate on East 11th Street essentially was the core of downtown Black East Austin historically. And at this point, the Victory Grill is pretty much the only standing edifice reminder of that history. And a good portion of the work that I've done, especially for the last 20 years, has been largely focused on Central East Austin and trying to promote and preserve African-American culture in this district. And in fact, we were instrumental in getting the city to designate this part of town as an official African-American cultural heritage district. So the venue, Kenny Dorham's backyard, was meant to be kind of a placeholder in the community in terms of the music history, because when we took over that property, it was a vacant lot. It was a vacant lot where guys used to hang out and drink and listen to music and litter. And it the property is actually owned by the city of Austin, by the Urban Renewal Agency, is what the city division is called. So when we took it over with essentially a trade with the city. If they gave us access to the property, then we would do our programming there and provide the community with access to green space and to a performance venue and a place where community groups could hold meetings. Or if it's a sunny afternoon, you could just come by and stretch out on the lawn and get some sun, but the idea was to make it public space and be a vehicle for diverse arts to do our live music, not just music, but our live music and performance activities, as well as provide essentially an outdoor art gallery for large scale paintings and murals. And after we had been around for a little bit, we also added an organic garden program
So amazing.
for community members. And although it got destroyed, we used to have a little library box on the sidewalk for book trading. So we gave away toys and books for kids. So I'm sorry I say a lot.
It's okay.
I'm working on it. But the idea is that in this space, there are all of these components that to some people might seem like they're disconnected, but in our head, all of this stuff makes perfect sense to be connected and in the same place, in terms of doing something to contribute to a healthy urban neighborhood.
Yes, I would agree with that. So how are you guys functioning now? I guess we're still kind of in a pandemic, even if hopefully we're kind of toward the tail end. How are you still able to be part of the community right now?
We're able to be part of the community in that for a good portion of the week, the gates are open and people have access to the space. But in terms of our programming mission, we have essentially been shut down since the second week of March last year. So we've been down. We've been dark, as they say in theater business. We've been dark since for a year.
Yeah.
The thing that continues to go on there is that we still have the gardens there, and it's a food court with 4 food trailers right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So those food trailers, which are about as nuts and bolts as you can get for small business mom and pops. After a while, they were able to open back up and try to do business with COVID protocols. So businesses, it's been pretty slow, but it's picking back up. Springtime, things will be better. For us, the organization, in terms of our programming, we are talking about right now kind of wading back into performances and making the stage live with whatever level of added management that we'll have to add to make sure social distancing and adherence to whatever the county says that we need to do to provide a safe venue for people to come and gather. We have avoided even testing those limits over the course of the past year because we don't want to get sick and we don't want to facilitate other people getting sick. But I think we're getting, no, I know, I'm being positive. I know that we're getting to that point to where it's time to start off kind of slowly and get stuff back on stage and probably not spend a lot of time doing like super blown up marketing. Not really inviting 1,000 of our closest friends to come and hang out and party, but smaller performances just to try to get back on track and get people back into the habit of checking, our social media to see what we're up to. So that will start to move more next month.
Okay. if there's a way that me or anyone else can help you, just please let me know. Um, how can we help you with kind of the mission of the preservation of the culture in that area?
I'm glad you asked that question. Right now, myself and a number of people who have put together essentially a group of experienced, smart people, consultants, think tank that is organized as the East Austin Creative Coalition. For the past year, since we've not been able to produce our shows, we've essentially been working on art and culture politics within the city of Austin. And we've got an initiative that we've been working on for the cultural district. Long title, African American Cultural Heritage District Investment Initiative.
Okay.
And what we are essentially pushing, have been pushing, is for the city of Austin to make good on the promise that it made some 15, 17 years ago to promote, support, market an official, real cultural heritage district, arts and culture district, as a city asset. And
Absolutely.
we're doing that now because some of us have been irritated by that and have been talking about it for years. But over the course of the past year and a half or so, if not now, when?
Yeah.
And the urgency of the situation is because although this was designated a district that really got little support from the city, if you come to this neighborhood right now, any kind of historical African-American presence is pretty much erased. And we don't want that.
No.
And we certainly don't want that to happen in ways that are facilitated by the city of Austin. So we have basically said, now's the time to stop the silliness and let's get busy. And a significant portion of the initiative that we put together is to get the community, get the city to invest in and pay attention to cultural production and marketing and signage and those kind of things that make sense, and to shift their focus from, for us at least, shift the focus from nameless, faceless commercial development and actually pay attention to the aspects of these city documents, these city plans, neighborhood plans that deal with preservation, because they looked over that. They've looked over that for 20 years. They have provided an on-ramp for largely outsider commercial development, but it's done virtually nothing for cultural and historic preservation. And that's what we're all about. So we're looking for partners in this effort, and the biggest partner necessarily has to be the city of Austin. Having said all of that, the work that we did early on this was one of the first 4 cultural districts designated by the state of Texas through the Texas Commission on the Arts. But at the state level, have been more proactive in their support than the city of Austin has.
Okay.
And that's not good.
No.
Having said all of that, as background, during this way, I have, and others have been writing letters and going to meetings and doing way more Zoom calls than I ever want to participate in again in my life. But before we took the initiative to the city of Austin Council, we made the rounds to all of the people that should logically support our effort and get their endorsement, recommendation, resolution sent up to city council. Mm-hmm. So by the time we got to the city council to talk about this, we already had the endorsement of a large number of official city boards and commissions, community organizations, art and culture organizations, preservation organizations, and very, strategically so. This is not just what Harold and his friends are up to. We are just trying to steer the effort that actually represents a large constituency of people who vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the major points of the initiative to get the city to invest in the Cultural Heritage District is that for years and years and years, urban renewal in Central East Austin has had a devastating effect, not just on commercial properties, but in residential neighborhoods too. But there's a history that goes back, that's a really ugly history for the city, some of the stuff that has come through them, that they facilitated actually. And in my research of that history of urban renewal here in Austin, one of the things that kept popping up every few years was Black arts organizations and community organizations in Central East Austin saying, okay, the lip service is great. We want a professional cultural center. We want an arts center. We want an edifice. We want a facility. And it continues to, over this time, would get listened to and shows up in the minutes of meetings. And one year they even on the record said, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to fund that, but we can't get it in this budget cycle. So we're going to do it next budget cycle, just repeatedly over and over and over. So the big piece of our resolution is the establishment of the Kenny Dorham Center on Block 18, which is the city's label for the block where we are now, 11th and Juniper, between 11th and Juniper. And the Kenny Dorham Center would be a music hub / multi-arts facility that would have a well-equipped live music venue, smaller, not huge, live music venue that also might double as a black box theater from time to time, a recording studio, shared workspace for art and culture organizations, small rooms for lessons, perhaps studio space. This kind of stuff would be not street level. Yeah. If you're a real estate person, you know the mixed use protocols. And on the ground floor, you'd have access to the music venue. But in order to meet the commercial development needs that are actually pointed to quality of life of the people who live in the community, and as a driver for cultural tourism, then there might also be an art gallery or a reading room, small museum dedicated to someone's historic archive of the history of Black music in Austin and have that be an ongoing scholarly project with a direct tie to Houston Tillotson. Maybe a coffee shop, maybe a record or bookstore, maybe a marketing firm.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the vision for the facility that fronts 11th Street with a smaller amphitheater carved out so that outdoor performances would still be there.
Mm-hmm.
But this complex would tie into the Juniper side with parking between and under and provide truly affordable housing for creative sector folks that would function like residencies. You can have this bare bones rent for 2 years, come here, work, produce, add to the synergy of this address. And then the backside, which would front Juniper, might be up and down living loft, first floor workspace, storefront, et cetera, et cetera. So my project fits all of the things that the city says it wants for a mixed use development. It's just that the focus is on art culture preservation.
Yep.
So that is the big deal.
Okay.
That's part of the resolution, and moving things forward to support the district at large. It's not the easy part, but it is the more palatable. We can get some things moving on this. The challenge is going to be to get the city to do what would essentially be a paper exchange and transfer that property out of the urban renewal agency back to the city or to a management organization or whatever with a 100-year lease at $1 a year. The city already owns the property. It doesn't, it doesn't have to go out and buy the property. So all of this stuff is on our side is actually well thought out, but it requires bureaucratic expertise and willingness to actually get work done.
Yeah.
Therein lies the challenge. It's about
cool though. That would be really, really cool.
It's about political capital. That's the way the politicians would deal with it. Because if they want to do it, if the city council wants to do anything in the city, all they have to do is decide they want to do it and they just go and do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we are encouraging them to do now. And if not now, when?
Well, let's tell me, do you want to tell me about Kenny Dorham?
Yeah.
Why the place is named after him?
Yeah. I was a Texas-born and raised jazz trumpet player, flugelhorn player. He did a little singing, wasn't known as a singer, but he was a band leader, trumpet player, composer, recording artist, all of those things. And one of the most significant jazz trumpet players in jazz history. He would have been Miles Davis if his marketing and connections would have been better, maybe. And Miles Davis would have told you that Kenny would have been his first call trumpet guy. So he's that significant a player. So as a band leader, he wrote a bunch of tunes and made a bunch of records, but as a band member and sideman, he's probably on hundreds of records.
Wow.
But really, really significant player in the history of jazz globally. And unless you're a jazz head and you live in Austin, you might not know who he is. And if you live in Austin, you should know who he is, whether you know jazz or not, because he is significant to the history of the town and very significant to the history of this community.
Very well.
So that's who Kenny Dorham is. And that's why it's called Kenny Dorham's Backyard.
I love it. And also I'd like to be able to share like all your past work and your documentaries and stuff with folks if they want to be able to see those, if that's possible, that we can share those too.
Some of it is possible. Some of it is embarrassingly difficult in that we've got a couple of websites that it's actually been like 5 years, I think. They got hacked.
Oh no.
And we had to take them down.
Oh.
And try to rebuild them.
Yeah.
And this occurred at about the same time that we got out of the city's cultural arts funding system.
Okay.
So we've got tons of content that goes back 20, 25 years that doesn't exist anywhere else, but we don't have the money to rebuild the websites.
Got it. Okay.
So that's a serious impediment.
Okay.
Because I'm a documentary guy and I can't share access to our archive.
Right. Okay. So what else, is there anything else you'd want to share? I mean, I don't have like the biggest social, media presence or anything, but what else can we share with the community that you would like to get out there? Either supporting you guys, helping preserve this culture and this history, or like anything else that we can do? Well,
I've given you kind of a top-down view of the stuff that we're involved in right now, and
Yep.
and kind of let you know that part of what we're up to is rebuilding an awareness that the venue is there so that we can invite our friends to come out and hang out there.
Okay.
And because we continue to be essentially an unfunded nonprofit, the organization is largely driven with volunteers and interns and people that write us a check now and then. So if anyone wants to contribute at any of those levels, it would be really good to hear from you. And since you mentioned the web site and the documentary presence, if we could run into some really smart folks that know web architecture and design, especially if they are familiar with Drupal,
Mm-hmm.
the
Okay.
Drupal platform, that would be great, because that's the platform that the sites were built on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've since come to find out that not a lot of people mess around with Drupal because it's a complex database platform, and WordPress is a lot easier.
Yes.
But yeah, that's kind of some of where our needs are.
Okay.
In terms of the venue, we have a volunteer list. So if people are interested in helping to produce live events or helping us clean up or carpentry or, any of those things, again, we'd love to hear from you. And the easiest way to find us online would be in Facebook. There's a page for Kenny Dorham's Backyard.
Mm-hmm.
There is a membership group called Friends of Kenny Dorham's Backyard.
Okay.
And there's also the organizational page, DiverseArts.
Okay. Okay. I will compile all of that and make sure it is very easily accessible to anyone who comes across this.
Or, you know, if people just questions, what are you guys up to? Why are you doing this? You know, we like to engage and we like to be transparent about what we do.
Mm-hmm. It's so needed. I'm honored that you even spent some time with me today. Um, the fact that this is a desperate need in our city right now is an understatement. That this is so important to everything Austin right now.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and I'm glad you understand that. Not everybody does. Not everybody thinks about preservation. They just think about, you know, new development, new buildings, knock stuff down.
I know, and it might seem as a contradiction because I am in real estate. I'm a realtor, but I do residential, and I want people to be happy in their homes and to be able to walk and live in their community and be part of a community and a culture. And so that is so important to me for sure. And preserving and listening to those stories, I think, is huge to understand who we are as.
Yeah, it's in terms of your profession. You sound like one of the good ones. I tell you, you know, but I talk about this stuff all the time, and a lot of folks who are engaged in commercial real estate development, quality of life rarely comes out of their mouth when they're talking about their project. They don't talk about quality of life for the people that live around there already, you know.
And that needs to be number one. That needs to be number one.
It needs to be number one. And the thing that we want to make clear is that we're not anti-development. We're not anti-density. It's just there's a smart way to do some things that, you know, gives folks that are already there some reason to support what you're doing, because you're increasing not just their property value, but you're increasing their quality of life. Because some of us bought these houses because we want to live in them, not because we want to flip them.
That's right.
You know.
Yep.
Down off the soapbox now. I'm done.
I'm right there with you. Oh gosh. Well, like I said, it was just such an honor to get to spend some time with you. And I'm going to follow up and make sure I have everything to share with people and list for volunteering and how to donate, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll make sure all of that's available.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. And you can dig into my past too. I've got a LinkedIn page, so you can get my background.
All right, we'll be friends on LinkedIn then too.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. But don't hang up when I end this, okay?
Okay.
I want to ask you a couple more questions offline.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me. It's my job to talk about this stuff. This is what I do.
I absolutely love it. But yes, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.